I wanted to say a word on the passing of Christopher Tolkien. Before he died, I had contacted the Tolkien estate to ask how I might write him a physical letter in order to express thanks for the work he has done and to share with him a copy of a Third Age Middle Earth map I had created. I don't know if he would have appreciated the map or not, or even seen it, but I wanted to do something to express my gratitude. I was deeply inspired by the works of J.R.R. Tolkien when I was in middle and high school and remain so to this day. It is because of Christopher Tolkien that we have the Silmarillion, Children of Húrin, Beren and Luthien, the Fall of Gondolin, and the histories of the Middle-earth. Christopher Tolkien also took part in compiling the letters of J.R.R. Tolkien, which is probably the closest anyone today can get to an actual Q&A with J.R.R. Tolkien. The Silmarillion, Children of Húrin, and the Fall of Gondolin are complete works. The histories of the Middle-earth are not. They contain multiple versions and earlier drafts of things which would later be published, as well as materials which were abandoned or indefinitely set to the side. The histories are not an easy read, and I wouldn't recommend them for someone who just wants to read a complete story cover to cover. If that is your intent, you would be frustrated by the lack of completion and frequent stops, and probably will not be interested in the extensive commentary and notes. However, anyone interested in understanding J.R.R. Tolkien's thought process and methodology should be interested, or just anyone who wants to have a deeper understanding of his world. J.R.R. Tolkien wrote at a time when there were no computers other than the monstrous primitive things that filled an entire room and still had less capacity than a modern calculator. As a result, he left behind a multitude of papers which filled many boxes and drawers. Christopher Tolkien could have very easily kept the notes to himself and written anything in his father's name. He could have done this indefinitely and achieved great wealth for very little effort. However, instead, he decided to faithfully complete the works which had sufficient notes to complete, and much of the rest he did his best to organize in a way to show how the world was developed. For anyone interested in writing their own stories, such as myself, I highly recommend reading the histories of the Middle-earth, or at least keeping them as reference books. One can learn a great deal about world building from the histories. The notes and commentaries by Christopher Tolkien are very good and useful, as he was an eyewitness to much of what his father had done. With his passing, I don't believe that there are any more eyewitnesses, though I could be wrong. There is no greater respect a son can show his father than to continue his legacy and will after he has passed on. Again, Christopher Tolkien could have done his own thing in his father's name, but instead he chose to faithfully preserve and share his father's work up until the point of his own death. If I could say anything to the Tolkien estate, or whichever grandchild is now in charge, I would say to stay the course and continue in this vein. It is my hope that more Tolkien material will come out, and if you are to write something completely new, but set in the world of Middle-earth, such as a sequel, then you should try to at least carry on in the spirit of what J.R.R. Tolkien himself would have done. As to what that is, I would like to now quote J.R.R. Tolkien himself. This excerpt comes from letter 163. In any case, if you want to write a tale of this sort, you must consult your roots, and a man of the northwest of the old world will set his heart and the action of his tale in an imaginary world of that air and that situation, with the shoreless sea of his innumerable ancestors to the west, and the endless lands out of which enemies mostly come, to the east, though in addition his heart may remember, even if he has been cut off from all oral tradition, the rumor all along the coasts of the men out of the sea. I'll leave now with a saying of my own devising, or at least I think it is, and a passage from Scripture. Few men can bear the burdens of great men, though all can try. And now I read from 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 6 to 8. Therefore, we are always confident, knowing that, whilst we are at home in the body, we are absent from the Lord, for we walk by faith, not by sight. We are confident, I say, and willing rather, to be absent from the body, and to be present with the Lord.